Welcome to episode 24 of the Groth Gets It podcast. I'm here with attorney Caleb Katz of Katz Legal, katzlegaldefense.com. I think that's right. Right? Katzlegaldefense.com?
100% or Katz Law, either one. It's pretty short.
So let's start our podcast like we start our depositions. If you could say your name and spell your last name for the record.
It is Caleb Katz, K-A-T-Z.
So we were talking before off the record that my grandma's maiden name was Katz, K-A-A-T-Z. So K-A-T-Z, we may be related.
Very well, maybe far long ago, but somehow Katz ended up with one less A, and then the other half of the last name has been chopped off, apparently, according to family lore.
So it could have been like Katzenberg or something like that. Yeah.
Katzenberg, Katzenjam, or something.
Okay.
Something long.
I have other Katz relatives who are in Illinois, and you're from Illinois.
Correct, Central Illinois.
We were talking about Rivian before, the home of State Farm, Bloomington Normal.
Yes, sir.
And then did you move up to, or you lived up in the UP for a while?
Correct. I've kind of been all over the whole Midwest.
Okay.
Started off in Illinois after high school, ended up going to Minnesota for undergrad, then finished up undergrad in Ohio, graduated from there, and then I came to Wisconsin for law school. Was here for 6 years, and then Michigan for a handful of years, and I came back in like 2021 or so.
Okay. So which university in Ohio?
Ohio Wesleyan.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Delaware, Ohio, hometown of Rutherford B. Hayes.
Yes.
President.
Rutherford B. Hayes, who started what tradition? We just had this 2 weeks ago, so this is going to make this podcast timely because we're in the end of April.
I'm guessing it's the Easter egg hunt.
Yes, Rutherford B. Hayes. Yes.
It's also part of some backroom deal, supposedly, to win the presidency.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure.
The Easter egg hunt was?
No, Rutherford B. Hayes was caught up in the elections. It was a very tumultuous election.
And I think he got killed maybe in a car. Well, it would have been a car accident, like a stagecoach accident or something. There was some relationship like to some kind of accident that's how he died. Yeah. So my wife's family lore is that her side of the family is related to Rutherford B. Hayes. So my oldest son was a big fan of President Hayes.
Very cool.
And he to this day even calls him Great Uncle Rutherford.
That's awesome.
And when he was younger, we drove all the way to the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library, which is cool, but not as cool as some presidential libraries in Ohio. So, yeah, but good stuff. So, Ohio, then the UP, and now in Milwaukee, and you're downtown Milwaukee.
Correct.
So, why criminal defense?
Well, I would say I'm probably more traffic defense before criminal defense.
Okay.
If I do criminal, I try to keep it pretty traffic adjacent. Operating out of license, operating after revocation, OWIs, THC, stuff like that.
Well, but OWI and THC is criminal, right? I mean, 2, 3, 4, 5 times drinking, then it's a criminal offense.
Yeah, pretty much. After the second one, you're looking at criminal, and then obviously after the fourth, it's a felony, and then obviously THC, a second THC could be a felony here. We seem to be getting a bit more relaxed with it, but still outside of Milwaukee, it's pretty hit or miss. But I guess what makes my practice, I guess, tick or function so well is it's very high volume.
Okay.
So if you get dug into too significant or serious of criminal offenses, motions, trials, something that's very elongated, it very much slows up the process of going through high volume work. So, so I try to stick with very traffic or traffic adjacent work.
Well, so that's a good question. How can a lawyer be high volume? Now, I'm watching and I'm addicted to Law and Order, and that's obviously very low volume. They have like one case every week, right?
Right.
But high volume, I know that I've walked past room, 400 or something in the Milwaukee County Courthouse where it's small claims, and that's you see attorneys who come and they have literally a box full of files, and they're maybe new land properties or something, just evicting, or collections for a credit card company, and they have 75 different people that they're suing. Right. So I can see that as high volume, but how can you be high volume? What does that mean?
Yeah, so high volume to me is just basic traffic tickets, speeding tickets, improper lane changes, operating without a CDL license, operating without a license on person, stuff like that. So we pretty much just mass, big piles of those tickets, and then we just kind of function our schedule around that so we can be as cost effective but also effective with our time. So we're able to knock all these out in one swoop, for example, with each different court or courtroom.
Do the judges allow you to set your time? Say, hey, I want to be there on Thursday at 9? Or how does that work in the criminal misdemeanor courts?
Yeah, so it very much depends. So with traffic, it depends on, I would say, a court-by-court basis or even county-by-county basis. Milwaukee is very easygoing with that. Racine is even also easy with that type of stuff. So you kind of just reach out, you kind of get a feel for the prosecutor's office, or the clerk's office, and you kind of just see who's going to work with you the most. And kind of once you kind of get that formula down, you kind of tweak it to fit your schedule, your practice area, and you kind of just figure out how to keep the wheel turning. So
yeah. So who's in charge of the courtroom?
So usually it's a commissioner for a lot of these bigger.
Who's really in charge of the courtroom?
I mean, I guess you could say attorney Katz. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, usually it's the clerk. I mean, the
clerk,
clerk
exactly.
is for sure the boss. I mean, she kind of handles, he or she handles the calendars. The person that you had direct contact with, and then if they're very friendly with you and you're kind of respectful of their time and kind of their procedures, they're usually pretty easygoing on your end as well.
Yeah. So they're the one that controls the calendar, so then you can say, hey, Bob or Jane, can I please get 8:30 versus 9 o'clock or Tuesday versus Friday kind of thing.
For sure. And you also get a feel for their account. Like if they don't like Mondays to be bogged down or Fridays, and you try to avoid those days.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So I kind of jumped ahead to what you're currently doing. So you're doing a lot of traffic tickets. You probably know what the plea deals are, kind of probably by the back of your hand, right? I mean, just like the back of your hand, where if it's 39 over, and I'm making up numbers, 39 over in Milwaukee, they'll plea it down to X, right? Or points versus fine, things
Pretty
like
much.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much have most of it memorized by this point. I mean, we're doing, I bet you we'll do at least 3,000 tickets this year.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Which is definitely a high number. We've continued to grow each year, which is very good. So we kind of know when someone calls, hey, I got a ticket in X county, if that county is going to be very easy to work with or not.
Yeah.
Kind of set expectations.
Yeah.
Just because obviously the reason people try to use us is it's more cost effective, or they care about their time, they care about PTO days, that type of stuff. So they kind of let us step in and handle that work for them. And also, obviously, no one wants to spend much money on a traffic trial. So it's easy to set expectations when you've worked in all these counties, multiple times. And at that point, you can kind of, again, set those expectations with people.
I should ask this off record, but have you had a traffic trial?
We've actually had a couple, yeah. Because I mean, a lot of people that come to me are like CDL drivers or Uber, DoorDash, and
so they can really live or die by their license.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
Their livelihood is definitely based in their license and their record, and especially with CDL and DoorDash because they're so highly, monitored by the companies that they drive for or that they're subcontracted to.
Yeah. Now I'm just fascinated by this. How many? What's the percentage maybe of Uber or DoorDash or Lyft drivers contact you versus just Joe Schmo driving down the street?
I'd say people in like driving professions probably like 30-35%.
Okay.
A lot of times there's a lot of parents calling because once they see that their kid has a ticket and they're like, holy cow, my insurance is already through the roof.
Yeah.
I now got a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old with a 25 or 30 over. And they're like, hey, man, can you please help us out? It's big time. And I'm like, yeah, dude, we can jump in and do that. And that's probably the majority is parents and young drivers.
Yeah. How many? So for those people who don't know points, they just know points are important.
Right.
How many points do you have in any given year? Is it 12?
You get 12 a year. It's not based on the calendar year. So it's going to go off of when you get tickets.
Okay.
So if you're a probationary driver, obviously your points are far more important.
Yep.
Your first ticket is a freebie, so it's treated like you or I getting a ticket. It's 1-to-1 the points. So if the ticket says 6, it's 6. But if you get a moving violation conviction and then you get another ticket later on, those points are going to double. So obviously your 12 gets eaten up pretty quick.
Yeah. And then you're done. Well, if you're on probation.
If you're probationary and you cross 12, obviously you're suspended. but the suspensions are longer for you.
Okay.
You can still get an occupational and other types of licenses like that, so you can drive for work and other reasons. But then you're getting into high risk insurance and a bunch of other stuff that makes it pretty cost ineffective for you to be driving.
So that's why parents are really like, holy cow, I gotta
Yes.
get on top of this and hire you guys ASAP.
Correct. Or a lot of times they'll find out about it because their insurance will be like, hey, we see this on this record. And they call me because their kid or son or daughter has paid it already. And they
Yeah.
hey, I'll just pay it.
They tried to hide it. Yeah.
I'll hide it. No one's going to know. This
Yeah.
isn't a big deal. Then all of a sudden we're trying to go in and do like a motion to reopen and do all this stuff and kind of work it backwards and then start it over.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Cool. All right. So the second most interesting thing that I wanted to learn about is that picture you showed me. So you sponsor, is it considered ultimate fighting?
It would be considered mixed martial arts.
Mixed
MMA.
martial arts. Okay.
Yep. It's the Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship. He does several shows a year here in Milwaukee. He's expanded all over the country. He's got a Phoenix, a New Mexico, a couple other states that he's doing shows in. And that's kind of our big sponsorship we do every year. This year we're sponsoring 4 of his shows that are at Potawatomi. Next one's June 15th, in case anyone has any free time.
Okay.
We were on the mat at the last event. We'll be on it for the rest of the year. It's definitely a very exciting event. The firm likes going. You meet a lot of people, hand out a lot of cards. So that's always a good time.
So is it on TV too, or is it just at Pato?
So you can watch it. You can go live, obviously, at Pato, or you can watch it on UFC Fight Pass.
Okay.
The undercards are usually free, but then the main card is on pay-per-view.
Yeah. Okay. So who's the most I guess impressive fighter you've seen
I would say,
besides Pettis?
besides Pettis, his brother's also very good. But as far as for in his company or his fighting championship, I would say it's probably Mark Choinsky, Mark the Shark. He's like the reigning champ right now. He's probably teetering on maybe jumping up to the UFC. Then there's also Nate Jennerman. He's out of Sheboygan.
Okay.
He was on The Ultimate Fighter with Conor McGregor.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he's definitely a big name. He won 2 weeks ago at the Big Wauksh Expo Center fights. So I would say those are probably the two biggest guys I've seen there so far. Yeah. But he always has awesome guests who are like the big names in the UFC, like the big names. So
how does that work? Does Dana White come down and like try to just take his guys from him? There's got to be some kind of inner battle, politicking here going on.
I would imagine it's definitely a good jumping off spot for these guys because I would say, Anthony's, league or fighting championship is probably like very high tier. It isn't going to be like very low level guys. These guys are going to be kind of on the cusp or precipice of possibly making that jump to the UFC. So, and plus it's on pay-per-view, so everyone can see them and get some good tape and exposure.
So the 3 fighters I know from Milwaukee have Askren, you have Duke Rufus, and then Pettis, right?
Yep.
I mean, those are kind of the 3 that have made it furthest
For sure.
in the MMA or UFC kind of fighting. Interesting. So how'd you get involved in sponsoring this?
Yeah, it's actually a really funny story. When I started my firm, this would have been 2 years ago. Obviously, as you probably know, starting out your own company, it starts off kind of slow. You got a few dollars trickling in. You're trying to hold on to it and kind of build it
Hopefully
up.
you have money trickling in.
Yeah, trickling in.
All going out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely an experience. So, with that, we had some money coming in. It kind of started growing a bit, more and more and more. And I'm like, hey, maybe we should try some sort of advertising sponsorship or something. I saw an ad or post on Facebook or something about like the fights that were coming up. So I reach out and I talk to this guy. His name's Sammy, who now he's a very, very, very good friend of mine. He's probably like the manager, VP type guy for Pettis with all these events and running them. And I'm like, hey, man, I probably can't afford you guys. Like, this seems like a really cool event. Mm-hmm. I got this new business. Can you send me whatever the costs are? The costs ended up being something that were, within our budget, and they worked with us, which was really cool. So we had like a post with our name on it and like a small spot on the mat. And then just kind of continually growing from there. We've gotten a really good relationships, and now we just do a lot of advertising with them. That's usually our big firm events.
Yeah. So are you able to go like on the mat? Are you raising hands when they win kind of thing? Or how involved are you in this whole thing?
I'm not necessarily involved with the company, so to speak, but we're able to sit, obviously cage side. We meet all the I guess UFC guys that come in as special guests. Mm-hmm. We go to the weigh-in, see all the behind the scenes stuff. We get in the ring after, and kind of take some good pictures and meet more people. At the last event, we actually handed out one of the championship belts, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, of course, I had to order the pay-per-view to watch it to see what it was like. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. So, then what do you do? I guess how do you use that to grow your business? What are you doing to use that to leverage new clients and getting into different sectors of the market?
Yes, I mean, Anthony has a huge reach both on Instagram and that type of stuff. So does his company. So obviously, he's posting about how we're a sponsor. He's posting just videos about us in general.
Okay.
We're on the mat, so we're getting huge reach with it being on television, pay-per-view.
Do you have like an Instagram? You have an Instagram handle?
Yeah,
Are
so
you on TikTok and Facebook and all that?
yes, I'm on all those. I would say Instagram's probably my most used. That's at Attorney Katz. It is, the coolest. But it's out there. We're posting some stuff.
Yeah.
We had like a commercial we ran at the last fights, and I would say it has a huge following. People love MMA right now. I would say the production quality, everything with Anthony's shows just continually is growing and getting bigger. They started at the Baird Center when we started sponsoring them, and now we're at Pato, and I mean that place is sold out every time.
Yeah.
So we're getting tons of views. We're able to track it on Google with all those metrics. And a lot of people just kind of reach out like, hey, you were that guy from that show, or we saw you at the show, we saw your name. And one time I was at one of the fights and some dude called me from Arkansas. He's like, hey man, like I'm calling for the king. And I'm like, yeah, this is the guy. And like,
Yeah.
what's up? How can I help? So yeah, I mean, we get some reach that's really good.
So he called you the king?
Yeah, I go by the Traffic King.
Okay.
It's kind of like a alter ego, if you will. So it's kind of funny, but it's kind of our thing,
So do you have like a website that's thetrafficking.com?
I wish
Or
I could, but
where-
the problem is when you shove it together as Traffic and King, it comes off as like human trafficking. It's spelled the same, so I can't be trafficking.com.
Man.
So
Well, you
have
could be
to have
Traffic
like
Ticket King.
something
right?
like that. I mean, you have to split it up that way. So usually there's like a big space in the middle.
Oh man. Oh, I didn't think about that. Trafficking.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. That would be the worst.
So, yeah.
So traffic, because there's an attorney out east. I'm not going to say his name. He's a acquaintance friend of mine that I'll have to look him up after we're off this, and I'll show you what his logo is, and he has car wraps and all that.
Okay.
And it's similar to what you're doing,
Very good.
but his is not trafficking. But it's very, very close.
Okay.
But it works, I think, for him. Cool. So you're using social media.
Yep.
You're and we connected over LinkedIn.
Yes.
Right. So social media, and then you have kind of I'm assuming you said TV ads, or do you have other kind of just standard?
Yeah. So yeah, the sort of I guess TV ad
Old-fashioned.
was just like showed up on the big screen at the fights.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so specific to this niche.
Correct.
Okay, so you're kind of all in on MMA.
Yeah, it is. Just because I mean, again, it's a great time to go to do a good cross section of people, and pretty much traffic tickets for everybody.
Yeah.
It isn't like you're looking for a specific business or a certain type of niche client.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's kind of hard. I don't know how anybody could justify doing a TV ad
Right.
for traffic tickets, right? I
Right.
mean, because, for car crashes in our world, I think the instances of car crashes may be more than traffic tickets, or maybe less, but there's going to be a lot different fee for a car crash
sure.
than it is for that, and more stress, I think, for us than for you. Luckily for you.
Yes.
Interesting. So, how did you get into the law? So you're up in the UP managing a municipality.
Yes.
Right. And then how did that bring you down here to practice in Milwaukee?
Yeah. So well, I went to law school here. Was it 2013 to 2016?
Okay.
Then I worked for a subrogation insurance defense firm for about 3 years, which gave me enough time to get reciprocity for my Michigan license. So that I was kind of wanted to live more rurally. So I love the UP. I love the deep snow. I love the cold. So I'm like, you know what? I got my 3 years in. Like, we'll give this thing a shot. And this small town had an opening. I'm like, this is sort of similar to a little bit of a skill set I have. It was a really great time, really cool. Really enjoyed it. And I decided to come back here and got back into law. Then started working for really, a general practice firm with a mentor, and the general practice was a great experience because you kind of got a little bit of experience in everything. But for me, it was just a little bit too much stress, kind of having to change gears all the time, and I just kind of like the traffic, OWI, low level criminal stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of got really, honed in on that, and then just decided to make a jump, and here I am.
So you made the jump all by yourself.
Yeah.
No partners, no staff, just Caleb.
Yeah, I ended up having a summer intern who worked with me, and that was really about it. And then as it slowly grew, brought on a legal assistant who's still with me today. Her name is Maria. She is probably 90% of everything done for me. She is a workhorse, and I love working with her. She saves me a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of like the pork of the core, She's kind of like the wheels and brain of the operation. She keeps us running. So she's been really good. So now we're just trying to continue growing. I'm trying to figure out what the best path of that is. Is it partners? Is it a different practice area? Is it another legal secretary? Is it an associate? Is it an intern? Whatever.
Yeah. So how did you choose? How did you choose the traffic tickets and criminal defense kind of world? Why that versus drafting wills
Yeah, it's a great question.
or divorce, I guess, or whatever else would be out there?
Yeah, I just kind of dipped my toe into the traffic game, and I realized like no one really knows it. I don't want to say that they don't know that doesn't exist, but it's just kind of like it gets overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one thinks of calling an attorney for a traffic ticket.
Yeah.
But in reality, like it really could affect you long term, money wise, license wise, driving career, etc. So I kind of figured, I can hone and kind of sharpen this system, and we've slowly continued to increase every year. So now it's just a matter of what else do we want to branch off into?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think probably the timing is pretty darn good because you have people who are going more towards in the pandemic, door dashing, Uber, Lyft, drive for hire, which I think is more prevalent now than it was 10 years ago. 100%. So that's good for you.
It is. And then on top of that, I mean, the feds are really cracking down on truck drivers. Like these guys are under a microscope for anything and everything.
Yeah.
And it's really tough because these guys are getting tickets for equipment violations, anything you can think of, and they're just looking for any reason to pull these guys over.
Yeah.
And, it's a very important job for us. I don't think a lot of people realize how important the CDL drivers are to the economy, to, the country in general, because they bring everything to us. And, and then it's kind of opened the door to a lot of other issues because I'm getting a lot of clients that just hop on these trucks and they're hired to do this, but they have no licensing, no CDL license. So now a lot of the guys that are very good at it are kind of getting pushed out because of all the tickets and all the scrutiny and the, tightening of the screws by the federal government on this topic. And so now it's kind of a free-for-all sort of thing.
Yeah. Interesting. I remember so when I first graduated law school, I worked for a general practice firm, and it was jack of all trades kind of work, and there was a semi that was driving like east side of Milwaukee, and I think he was driving overweight for that road, or I forget what the ticket was, but it was like a $6,000 ticket. It was unbelievable that the city has those kind of tickets that are that much, and then there was no negotiating. So they called, and my boss was like, "Okay, John, go and negotiate it." And I go, and I'm right out of law school. I was like, "Okay, here I go."
Yeah.
And it was like, "Okay, no, $6,000, and that's it." And we're like, "Oh crap, what do I do?"
Yeah.
So I remember I had to I postponed it. We got a different attorney involved because this was way out of our league.
For sure.
So is that something you see, that they're that huge of fines?
Yeah, I had a guy this week or last week, it was $12,500.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how do they justify $12,000 fine?
Yes.
Where does that number come from?
Yes. So by statute, they have like a breakdown of cents per pound.
Oh, per pound. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So there's that. But the issue that keeps happening is you have, these CDL guys are coming from New York or California, Oregon, Montana, wherever. And there's so much construction in Milwaukee, even in the small towns, whether it's, Elkhorn, Milwaukee, Glendale, wherever. And these guys, their GPS takes them a different way, or there's, some sort of detour. They end up on the wrong road, and next thing you know, boom, the cops are right there, and come with us. We're gonna weigh your truck, and
And the cop just made their quota for tickets in that particular.
Yes, the cars would be very full.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they could afford some new lights or afford some new tires or something for their car. Wow. So is that the biggest fine you've seen? Is a $12,000 fine?
That I can remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're currently working on that. I mean, I'm sure we'll get it chopped down, whether it's 25, 50, or 75%, but we'll definitely get something done.
Yeah. Man. Okay. All right. I have totally gone off script, so I'm going to get in trouble because I've totally gone off script. But this is more interesting than the script. All right. So, do you use like any kind of case management system, or how do you keep track of all these different clients that you're helping on any given day?
Yeah, great question. So it's pretty much an intake system where it rings to both myself and Maria. Whoever gets the call, we kind of go through our usual script, name, phone, email, get us some background, where's your license from, stuff like that. So we kind of get an overall picture. Then we go into where's the ticket from, what type of ticket is it? So we can kind of start thinking about what type of reduction or dismissal or whatever we can get for the person. And then we have a case management system called Smokeball, which I really like.
Australia.
It is.
Yes.
It's very good. They help you set it up.
Yeah.
Their client support or service is excellent. I love it. You have the app on your phone, so you can take notes or bill time, whatever you need to do. So we work with that. We also use, obviously, the Google Suite, so we can track just the number of cases we get. And we can also, obviously, put tags on it so that we know if a case is ready to be closed or have a closing letter sent or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we manufacture all that. But yeah, Smokeball's been a game changer. I start off with just Google Drive, something simple, low budget.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hey, this is just too much to put all this in there. They start running out of space. So luckily, Smokeball has stepped in, and it's been really good. And also the template drafting. I mean, it saves you a ton of.
Well, the doc gen, the doc
incredible.
generation is a huge deal. Well, because a lot of this stuff is they're letters that you're going to make once and use 1,000 times, right?
Exactly.
So is it an hourly practice, or are you a flat fee? How do you?
I'm flat fee, unless we go to trial, then it's a separate flat fee. But
Okay.
We try not to obviously dive into that because people get kind of freaked out when they hear, a large number for a trial. And I'm like, hey, we'll go the cost-effective route to see what we can do here, see if you're satisfied with that. And then if not, we can always do a trial.
So when somebody calls you, it's not like there's a surprise. It's, hey, I'm going to charge you X amount.
Correct.
And it's between now, this activity now, just setting up your file, and the first or second court appearance, and that's what you're going to pay me.
Correct.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
We'll take care of everything start to finish except for a trial. And then if we get to the point where we have an offer to reduce it or dismiss it, if they want to accept it, great. If not, then we talk about a trial.
Yeah. Well, and the problem with a trial then is it's maybe a day or days of your life getting ready for it and then actually hearing it or going before the hearing. And probably in criminal courts, I'm guessing they could have a more important thing happening.
Correct.
And then you're postponed until the next week or the next month.
For sure. And we also got to worry about, is the cop schedule going to work for it? Because, it isn't like this is a significant felony case where, like, hey, we cannot move this trial. Like,
Yeah.
It's hard and fast. So there's that. Obviously, just the time of someone having to show up, or they're like, hey, the reason I'm hiring you is so I don't have to show up and waste a PTO day or waste a day of my time.
Yeah.
So that kind of,
Makes sense.
calculus for me.
Makes sense. All right. So we talked about you like the deep snow, which I don't understand.
Yes, sir.
Are you, is it snow machines, snowmobiles, UTVs, ATVs, snowshoeing? Are you a snowshoer? What do you like about
I would
the
say
deep
it's
snow?
kind of all of the above. The thing I love about the UP so much is once winter starts, winter is here. You got to have your boots on. You got to have your winter jacket and your hat.
Yeah.
Here in Wisconsin, it might be December 1. You're still in shorts. You never know. And then it's going to snow. And then it might rain. Then you get a blizzard. Then it melts. So
Well, it depends on
Yeah.
if you're like north of Stevens Point, probably, but
Right.
it feels more like the UP kind
Yes.
of weather where, well, two years ago we didn't have any snow for UTVing or
Right.
snowmobiling, but this year the weather was better. I think we had
Yeah.
more snow. Yeah. So you just like the consistency of seeing white versus just seeing like the gross mud on the ground all
right.
December,
Yeah.
January.
Exactly. Because when it's just cold, there isn't a whole lot to do. So like up there, snowshoeing is a great time. Cross country skiing. I like side by siding. I put tracks on the side by side, so you just go through anything. I like snowmobiling, but the problem is I don't have any friends with snowmobiles anymore. They're either married, kids, or whatever, and I'm not trying to get stuck out in the middle of the woods and walk back 10 miles or
Yeah.
freeze to death. So I've kind of put that on the back burner. So.
Okay. All right. So, are you like a downhill skier? Do you do downhill skiing or no?
No,
Okay.
maybe if I was like 20 or 25 again, but I have to be at workout Monday. So
Yeah.
I definitely can't risk breaking an ankle or a
Well,
leg
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, I don't know how many courthouses have operating um, lifts. I guess
Right.
you know there. I don't know where I was in court just a couple weeks ago where I would have gone into the elevator, but it didn't look like it was safe. So I was up and down the stairs. All right, cool. So you're closer, and this I'll age myself. You're closer to your lifting off into solo practice than I am. So, what advice would you give to a new attorney or somebody who's thinking about going solo or thinking about starting their own firm? Something that you wish you would have known, and something that you did that you're like, oh, this was the right thing to do. So, two different questions there. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, those are definitely tough ones. I think the first thing is you just got to make your mind if you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people have this idea of owning your own business. Like, hey, I can work when I feel like it. I can work whatever hours I want. If I want to work hard this year and take next year off, it's a very consistency is key, I would say, with it, because people get used to being able to reach you at certain times, or they refer friends to you. But if you're not very consistent, then people don't really want to work with you as much.
Yeah.
And people have gotten used to be able to reach me after hours or on weekends. So it is what it is. Some people don't like doing that, but it's very much about being consistent. You really got to jump in and know that you want to do it, because it really isn't that easy. It seems easy, like when people talk about it, like it's this cool entrepreneurial thing and you make a bunch of money, but no one sees like the behind the scenes, the grind, the midnight filings and all that stuff when you're doing it all on your own. So I would say make sure you really want to do it, and I would say kind of dip your toe in different areas before you really jump into doing that, unless you're very dead set on doing a certain area. And I would say don't take on something that you aren't really that familiar with or can't really understand or get a grasp on before actually handling it.
Yeah.
So
Why is that?
I would say there's a bunch of risk. There's going to be a lot of headaches. Obviously, getting up to speed, you're not going to be able to bill on that type of stuff. So you really got to do a lot of legwork on it. And then even then, if you're going to get someone that's done it for 5 or 10 or 20 years, I mean, you never know what might come at you. So
Yeah.
I'd say be careful
Yeah.
with that.
The fear of the unknown.
Yes,
Is
very
the problem.
much.
Well, and in the law, where just in personal injury law, the change from Michigan to Wisconsin law to Minnesota law is drastic, with no fault and things like that.
Right.
There are little items that I would never want to practice in Minnesota because I don't understand how the no fault law works. I have a buddy of mine who does practice in Minnesota. And he's like, oh, it's fine. I understand X, Y, and Z. So it's just those little things that you think it's the same, but it's certainly not, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's something you see even in traffic, where some states or even counties are very big into not allowing masking. Masking is changing tickets for CDL drivers. Some places aren't. Some people, you don't want to go against those rules. So, I mean, you never know what you're getting into. So.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so we're civil. I mean,
Yep.
personal injury, it's civil law. So, like I was saying before, almost every single night I watch Law and Order.
Right.
Because my kids like watching Law and Order, and it's just what we do. I mean, sometimes we will watch Suits or what's the other one? Lincoln Lawyer.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. Awesome show. I love that show. But there's not really a personal injury law firm TV show because
Right.
you guys get all the sexy stuff. We really don't. So with our world, it's a lot of paper, getting pushed back and forth. And I do
Right.
depositions. I'm taking testimony. There's examinations under oath and things like that. And then interrogatories, request for production of documents, requests for admissions, all those kind of things. Do you have that kind of stuff in criminal and traffic tickets? How do you know what the cops are going to say? How do you know what the DA is going to, or the city attorney is going to bring as evidence against you?
Yeah, great question. So if it's a non-criminal case, so let's say this is a basic municipal ticket or speeding ticket, that we have to do an open records request, unless the city prosecutor or that municipality itself just wants to send it to you, to be nice. Realistically, we do an open records request. We're able to get the body cam, dash cam if it exists. Then obviously any narratives, reports, etc. Normally on just a basic traffic ticket, you're just going to get the video if there is any, and then obviously the ticket itself with the cop's narrative, which is usually 2, 3, 4 sentences.
So let me stop you there. So is that something you would recommend as like a free giveaway today to anybody who is involved in a traffic stop? Right away, do like a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request?
Correct. Yeah, if they
It's
want
like a
to
given. Always do that.
I always just because that way you can kind of see if what you're remembering matches up with the officer's writing in his narrative, or if his dash cam, body cam, is matching up to his narrative or what you saw that happened.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So then, so you're licensed in Wisconsin and Michigan, and are you handling cases in Michigan currently?
We are.
Okay. So how do you do that? Is it remote? I mean, can you, do you have like Zoom hearings, or do you physically drive to the different courthouses?
Yeah, so it's on a court-by-court basis. We try not to do any in-person stuff unless it's like the UP. And I can kind of, again, make it effective by doing several at one time. A lot of times it's either over the phone with the prosecutors or it's just on Zoom. Each kind is a little bit different. They do what they call formal hearings. It's like a mini trial, if you will.
Okay.
But then some places just do a basic pre-trial conference like we do here, where it's just two people talking, going over the case, background, that type of stuff.
So formal hearings are that's a Michigan unique legalese.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I would compare it to like a motion hearing or like a bench trial, if you will. They'll
Okay.
call in the cop. Our client will be there, I'll be there, the prosecutors and the judge is there.
Okay. So it's like a mini trial, but they just call it a formal hearing.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. What's the most interesting case that you've handled in your current practice, or most interesting experience with a client? Mine was getting attacked by a client in a good way after we won a jury trial, and grabbing me, and he was a giant of a man, like 6'8", and just grabbing me and jumping up and down, and he hadn't shaved that day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like rug burn because he was squeezing me because he was so happy.
Yeah.
It was painful, but it was a good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what's a interesting story you can tell us?
I would say probably one of the best would be we had a municipal OWI. This tipster called in someone allegedly swerving and weaving. The guy gets home, parks in his garage, and he's just hanging out. And all of a sudden the cop just decides out of their own good heart, they're just going to walk in the garage and talk to the guy and arrest him without a warrant or anything. So we ended up challenging it, and it got tossed out and made into a reckless driving instead of an OWI, which was a great result. So there was that. I'd say that's probably the best one. I mean, we have a lot of good cases. We encounter a lot of peculiar, interesting facts. It's just sometimes they're tougher to win.
Are they? Do you think there's a lot of instances where the video doesn't really jive with what the cop writes down? Is that pretty common?
I would say it's pretty common.
You're kind of alluding to that with your little smile there, maybe.
I would say, yeah, a little bit of that, and then a lot of stuff happens before the camera starts rolling.
Okay.
Like the dash cam. We've had.
Can the police turn it off and on?
So it's usually attached to when they hit their lights, and then it'll back record like 30 seconds or a minute or whatever they've set.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, let's say you almost hit a curb or something, the cop thinks you're swerving, but they follow you for 8 more minutes, then they hit their lights. Well, that you almost hitting the curb isn't going to show up on dash cam.
Yeah.
But they're going to put it in their report. So then it's really just me trying to cross-examine an officer and then having them compare that to what the judge wants to think is more reliable.
Yeah.
Not having it on video or what the officer is saying in court.
So it's not. Yeah. So I guess I didn't realize that. I assumed cop puts their uniform on, the recorder on,
Right.
and it's on.
Well, a lot of places don't even have body cams still.
Okay.
So, I'll have some state police cases or some other municipalities that just don't have it yet. Some places don't even have dash cam.
So in the Milwaukee area, which municipalities have dash cams or just cameras?
Yeah, so yes.
Milwaukee, I assume?
Yeah, Milwaukee does. Racine usually does.
Like the smaller,
Yeah, I would say the
Wauwatosa?
smaller departments, Waukesha,
Okay.
depending on if it's the sheriff or town or city.
Okay.
Some do or don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So, oh, let's see. What was my other question? The your world in Subro. What was the average day in Subro world as an attorney, and compare that to your average day owning your own firm as an attorney?
Great question. It was definitely
And sorry, Subro stands for subrogation.
correct.
I do that like every day because we have health insurance that's
Yep.
trying to get money from our clients.
Correct.
And that's a subrogation. Yeah.
Yep. So I would say it was very similar, but also like super different. It was very similar in that the firm is, a small firm, if you will, but they're national. So they're doing stuff in every single state. They got tons of work coming in.
Okay.
So it was very much like the traffic world where it was high volume. I was doing a lot of like the lower, health insurance type stuff for like truckers and independent contractors. So it was a lot of like low value cases, but there was a ton of them.
Low value meaning like you're collecting $1,000, $2,000.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And, obviously the contingencies were smaller, like 10, 20, or, 15%, stuff like that.
Okay.
So we were just constantly cranking those out, but it was a lot easier in that, you have an office manager, you have a paralegal, you got a legal assistant who's answering the phone. Hey, I need a new desk chair, and you don't have to do all this stuff on your own. So now is my own.
Pen.
Exactly. I need
Some legal pads.
100%.
Yeah.
Or I'm having a computer issue, can the IT guy come by and fix this for me?
Okay.
Whereas, obviously being a solo, I got to pause what I'm doing, that's actual legal work, to call the IT guy, or I got to go to Best Buy, or I got to go to Office Depot, whatever, and get this stuff that I need. So I would say, it was similar but different, but, every once in a while we'd have some really cool Subro cases, kind of more high dollar. So it was always kind of exciting.
Yeah. So the big difference is back then you could probably walk out of the office and be done for the day.
Yeah.
And now you're never done.
Never. I
It's
mean,
24/7.
true story. Last Sunday, I had some kid call me at 3 a.m. He's like, hey, man, I got this ticket at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Can you help me out? I'm like, sure thing, brother. Let's get
8
you signed."
a.m.?
8
So
a.m.
he calls you with 5 hours notice?
Hey, man, someone has to do it.
Oh.
Someone has to be the guy that does it, and that's me.
Oh.
And, I tell everyone I'm working constantly, which is good and bad. But, yeah, call me 2:33 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's get you signed up, and we'll hop on this. We'll file the stuff. And
Yeah. Hopefully you didn't have to drive anywhere. Was it local at least?
Yeah, it was local.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. It's not like it's a 2-hour drive.
Well, I was able to file my appearance at not guilty. So
Oh,
they
okay.
then set her for a new court date.
Okay, so then they're going to push it off. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you had to get up
Correct.
at 5 and then get in the car and drive somewhere. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we were still up at 8, showing up in a different court, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Man. Okay. Well, better you than
Pretty much, I think everybody said
than
that.
everybody else. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So that's, I guess, really the big difference is going from working for somebody to being your own boss,
Right.
and then ordering the toilet paper or ordering the paper, the legal pads, the
Right.
computer, whatever else it is.
I mean, and the other tough part too is, I mean, when you're a small business too, and your legal assistant or someone is sick or they take a vacation, now you're doing all the legal assistant work plus the lawyer stuff, so you're even busier. So.
Yeah. So then how do you create systems so then you can go on vacation and then everything works while you're gone?
Correct. I'm finally taking a vacation. It starts tomorrow.
Okay.
Still taking the laptop and the phone. So if you need to call Attorney Katz, you can call him anytime. But yeah, Maria's going to pick up the slack for me. But yeah, we're trying to do that. Usually I don't take a lot of vacation.
Yeah.
So.
Are you going somewhere warm?
Puerto Rico with
Oh my gosh. Awesome.
with my good buddy Sammy from Anthony's company. So he's from Puerto Rico, so he's going to show me the real trip and all the cool secrets.
Awesome.
So
So do you speak Spanish?
I speak a little bit. I mean, I'm passable. Maria, luckily, is from El Salvador, so she's very good at it. So I don't have to practice or sharpen it anymore. She kind of just jumps in and does it for me.
So you can help clients who are Spanish speaking or English speaking.
Yeah, I would say that's probably at least 40 to 60% of our business, probably Spanish speakers.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. All right. What else? Is there anything else that you want to talk about? So we talked about your website. How do we get a hold of you? So we have your website, katzlegaldefense.com.
Yes, sir. Or at Attorney Katz on the typical social media pages. 414-678-1238. I couldn't get a cool jingly number like all the cool personal injury attorneys have.
Can we text you at that number?
You can definitely text that
Okay.
number. Most mornings I wake up, someone's texts me, "Hey, I got a ticket. Give me a call." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sure." The other free piece of advice I would give is get a dash cam.
Okay.
So it's always recording what's going on.
Do you have
Also,
one?
Luckily, my car comes equipped with it. I have a Tesla. So
Okay.
it has the front cameras and all that good stuff. But something that's going to show your speeds at the cops, like, "Hey, you're going 40." You're like, "No, man, I was recording this. It's going 42 or whatever." It definitely helps, and also helps me out. Too.
Yeah.
So that's my other free piece of advice I would say. And if no one has anything to do, June 15th is the next set of fights at Potawatomi. It's going to
Okay.
be awesome.
And you're going to sponsor?
I'm going to be sponsoring again.
You'll be there ringside.
I'll be there ringside, hoping that some blood or something gets splattered on the logo, so I can frame it.
Yes. Perfect.
There's that. Got some more big UFC names that are coming, so people are looking to get autographs, so it'll be a really cool event.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I got a question for you.
Yes. Yeah.
What is it like when you're driving around town and your face is everywhere?
What's it like?
Yeah, what's it like?
It was cool initially,
Yeah.
and now I kind of don't pay attention to it. Like the first week, the first day, I got a call from our billboard people saying it's going to be that there's a billboard up on maybe like 76th and Good Hope or something like that. So my oldest son's in college, so I wasn't able to do this and embarrass him, but I embarrassed my middle and youngest son and said, "Hey guys, let's go to Cabela's. I guess we have something that would take us north." But they're young boys and they don't know directions. They just get in the car and they don't know where they are. So whatever, because they're young boys, and like I was a young boy, I was clueless. I said, "We're going to Cabela's."
Okay.
So we drive up, and then I was like, I said I forgot something or whatever, and now I gotta go here, and I'm telling them what I'm doing, and again, they're clueless. They don't care.
Yeah.
So then I pull over, and I'm not saying anything, but there's my picture on a billboard, and it's this one right there.
Nice.
And they're not looking up. They're just on their phones, whatever.
Texting, whatever, yeah.
Are you joking me? So I was like, okay, I'm going to get out, guys. I have to look at the tire or something. And I drive around, stop, and get out, and I'm like, "Boys, look up," And then they looked up, like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was awesome for me as a dad to embarrass my sons.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most exciting the exciting time. Ever since then, it's been downhill because it's just like, now they're rolling their eyes, saying, "Okay, are we driving this way because you are lost, or are we driving this way because you want to find another one of your billboards?" So it's fine. I think one of the more fun things now is we have some cars that are driving around
Okay.
that have our logo and my face on it. So that's kind of fun because those you never know where they are. So there was somebody who took a picture up in Minocqua. So one of the
Nice.
guys must have gone on vacation up there
That's
and drove
awesome.
his Uber car up there. But they'll be all around town. So it's interesting. I never thought that we would get to this point.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Right now, the thing that I'm most, I guess, happy about is our RDS on the radio, because I was just getting sick and tired of seeing all my competition for every single radio station.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you even have celestial or terrestrial radio
Yeah.
in a Tesla, but if you listen to 102.1, you're listening to 93.3 or Froggy 100.3, we sponsor those radio stations. We sponsor the RDS, so you'll see like the album cover, the album art, and then it'll say the song's name and then the album name, and then it'll rotate and say, "Injured, Groth Gets It."
Gotcha.
For other radio stations, it says all the competition.
Gotcha.
So now at least finally I have 3 stations that I can listen to that I won't get annoyed at because I won't see other people's names. So yeah.
I feel like there's a billboard everywhere now.
Well,
I think everyone's jumping into the billboard game right now.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I don't want to take credit for it, but it seems like ever since we were in the billboard game, now everybody seems to be in. Like Pittman went crazy.
Yep.
And Nicolai's been there for a while, obviously. And Gruber, I know Gruber's upped since Nicolet's
Yeah.
come here, because Nicolet came and took a bunch of Gruber lawyers.
Yeah.
So there's just like there's some bad blood between those two firms.
Yeah. I'm even seeing a lot of like divorce ones too.
Oh,
In
yeah.
areas where you don't normally would think of seeing a billboard.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand the divorce lawyer billboard play. It just, yeah, because I have never, really before last year,
Yeah.
I never saw a billboard for a divorce firm, or even really for a criminal defense firm,
Yeah.
right? It's only ever been personal injury attorneys,
100%.
right? I mean, it just seems odd. And now it's, Wisconsin's largest
Yeah.
divorce and family law man. I mean,
Yeah.
could be say divorce and family. So it's divorces and then be temporary restraining orders.
Yeah. Or like maybe custody. I'm not
Custody
sure.
battles, yeah, I guess. No, I agree. It just seems just
Everyone's doing it. Yeah.
it's just nuts. We just got a report last week, I think it was, of the buys, the different buys,
Yeah.
the media buys for all the law firms, and just the money that is being spent is insane. I don't understand it. There could be a lot of people who are well fed or who have a home,
Yeah.
or the amount of money that is spent on billboards or just media in general.
That's true. I mean, there isn't a lot of other media sources anymore. I mean, people aren't really doing local TV much anymore. They all got satellite or cable and
Yeah.
Hulu, that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
there aren't as
Cool.
many spots.
And that's why we're doing this kind of thing, where you're doing podcasts and social media,
Right.
so you can have some kind of reach out there that doesn't cost literally millions upon millions of dollars. So we'll see if it works. So far, so good, but we shall see. All right. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. What color car do you think is the most pulled over kind of car?
I would have to say red. I mean, I have a lot of clients say, "Hey, I think you just stop me because I'm in a red car," and I'm like, "It's very possible. I'm not sure." No,
You think it's red versus like white? Is that what the
I would say red, or if your car just sounds somewhat like sporty or loud,
okay?
they're gonna like specifically laser in on you.
Okay. So just be careful for your muffler. Make sure it's working and that you're not souping it up. And then,
Tint.
or buy a Tesla.
By
It won't make any sound. Okay.
Or
Cool.
tint. Be careful with the window tint as well.
Okay. Why?
And the cops love to stop people for window tint.
Is there a certain kind of like a tint scale?
There is. I have it memorized. I want to say it's 50% on the back and 35 in the front, but don't quote me on that. I'll
Okay.
double check.
So have you handled tint cases?
Yeah, actually we have. Some places are very like laid back. They're like, hey, this isn't worth our time to prosecute. Like
Yeah.
we'll just dismiss or make this like a parking ticket, let's say. Other places are like, hey, fix it and it'll go away.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who have paid a couple $100 or $1,000 for all their tents on, it's like, no way, man, I'll just pay this ticket. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. But the problem is 10 tickets carry 2 points.
Okay.
So obviously,
Are they non-moving?
yeah.
Okay. Non-moving 2 points. Okay.
Obviously, if you keep getting it, fix it, and these cops keep wanting to get you, and that's in like a small town, for example,
Yeah.
the 2 points adds up pretty quick.
And if you're a young kid and you have tint and it's your second violation,
Well, the non-movers wouldn't double though.
oh, they would. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Interesting.
So that's very important. So if you get a speeding ticket as probationary, you got to get admitted to a non-mover.
You want a non-moving for a kid. Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. So red cars, be careful. Tint
Yep.
and loud noises
Yep. And have your dash cam.
and dash cam. And I think there's a buddy of mine got in South Carolina. For a time, he was giving away dash cams. I think they weren't that expensive.
Yeah.
It was like $10 or less.
That's not bad.
I mean, not really high quality, but he was putting a sticker on there.
Yeah.
So it was brought to you by so and so firm. And then he had some that were better quality that had like an arm and they could put it on motorcycles.
Okay.
Those were I think like less than $20.
That's good.
So interesting. But dash cams, okay.
Very
Good advice. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
John. Appreciate it.
We will we'll put this everywhere, and please follow katzlegaldefense.com. Awesome. And that's Groth Gets It for today. Like, subscribe, and follow. Like, subscribe, and follow. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks.